If your life is collapsing, the worst move is announcing your comeback. The crowd does not save broken men. It studies them. It feeds on access. Today, you will learn the ghost protocol, how to disappear, rebuild in silence, and return as someone they can no longer read, reach, or ruin. The modern world trained you to perform every stage of your suffering. Post the breakdown. Announce the reset. Tell everyone you are working on yourself. But that is why most men never change. They leak the process before they build the foundation. They ask for attention when they should be building strength. And the people watching, most of them are not invested in your rise. They are invested in your visibility, because as long as they can watch you struggle, they still feel above you. That ends here. The ghost protocol is not depression. It is not hiding because you are weak. It is strategic disappearance. You cut the noise. You cut the audience. You cut the addiction to being seen. Then, in private, you rebuild your body, your mind, your discipline, your standards, and your life until your return does not need explanation. It only needs presence. Most men destroy their comeback before it even begins, not because they are lazy, not because they are cursed, because they make the rebuilding visible too early. They announce the reset. They post the quote. They confess the pain. They tell the world a new version is coming. And that is the first mistake, because the moment your transformation becomes public, it stops being sacred. It becomes entertainment. It becomes conversation. It becomes something weak people can observe, measure, doubt, and laugh at while it is still fragile. The world has trained you to document every collapse, every heartbreak, every failure, every failure, every new beginning. But public suffering does not create power. It creates spectators, and spectators are dangerous. Some will pretend to care. Some will offer soft words. Some will say they are rooting for you. But many of them are not watching because they believe in your rise. They are watching because your struggle makes them feel safe. As long as you are still bleeding in public, they do not have to confront their own weakness. As long as you are still explaining yourself, they know you are not dangerous yet. That is why the ghost protocol matters. When your life breaks, when your name loses weight, when your circle starts treating you like a joke, you do not perform recovery for an audience. You disappear. You cut the signal. You go where attention cannot feed on you, because the comeback that survives is the one no one sees forming. Chapter 1. The danger of public suffering. Public suffering invites the wrong kind of attention. Not just mockery, not just gossip. Something worse, positioning. The second people see you unstable, emotional, confused, or desperate, they begin adjusting around your weakness. They talk to you differently. They test your boundaries. They taste your boundaries. They delay respect. They offer advice you never asked for. They start feeling taller because we look uncertain. A man in pain is not always attacked directly. Sometimes he is simply downgraded. That is how status is lost. The coworker who suddenly speaks over you. The friend who becomes casually disrespectful. The woman who senses emotional chaos and stops taking your words seriously. The family member who uses your rough season as proof that you should stay small and obedient. Once your instability becomes public, your image is no longer under your control. Even good people begin to relate to you through the lens of your lowest moment. If that is the version of you they see the most. That is why public breakdowns are expensive. Not because pain is shameful, because visibility freezes pain into identity. The crowd does not say he is rebuilding. The crowd says he is struggling. And once that label sticks, everything you do gets filtered through it. You start over-explaining. You start offending your timeline. You start trying to prove that you are not as lost as you look. Now you are bleeding twice, once from the fall and once from trying to manage perception while still weak. A strategic man understands timing. He knows there are seasons when visibility is a liability. He knows that when the foundation is broken, you do not invite people to inspect the house. You lock the gate. You rebuild the structure. Then you let the silence speak later. Because weakness exposed too early becomes a script other people will try to keep you trapped in. And most men never see that trap until it is already around their throat. Chapter 2. The illusion of support. People do not want to see you heal. They want to watch the show. The moment people know you are working on yourself, a part of you starts performing progress instead of earning it. You say less than you should do. You post more than you should build. You talk about discipline instead of becoming disciplined. You collect the emotional reward of being seen trying, and that reward kills the hunger required to finish. That is why public reinvention fails. Applause is a counterfeit form of achievement. It makes unfinished men feel complete, and spectators love this arrangement. They get access to your inner world without paying the price of loyalty. They get the drama, the updates, the emotional honesty, the backstage pass to your unfinished identity. But the man giving them all that access loses something every time: mystique, leverage, focus, heat. He starts looking outward every time he should be going inward. Pay attention to the people who always want updates from you, the ones who keep asking where your head is at, the ones who want to hear your new plan. Many of them do not want your rebirth. They want your availability. Because as long as you remain explainable, you remain manageable. And that is why cutting off the audience is not bitterness, it is discipline. You are not disappearing to punish people. You are disappearing to remove the addiction to being witnessed. You are stepping out of the social courtroom. You are refusing to let strangers, ex-friends, fake allies, and quiet doubters sit in the gallery while you rebuild your mind. Real power is built where no one is clapping, no one is checking in, no one is validating the effort, no one is giving you emotional credit for almost changing. Once you understand that, going dark no longer looks extreme, it looks necessary. Because the first move of the Ghost Protocol is not deleting the world, it is deleting the need to be seen by it. Chapter 3. Going dark. Going dark is not running away, it is removing access. A weak man disappears because he is overwhelmed. A strategic man disappears because he is done leaking energy into places that do not deserve him. He stops broadcasting, he stops updating, he stops explaining the internal weather of his mind to people who only know how to consume it. You do not need a dramatic farewell. You do not post a message about taking time for yourself. You do not write a final paragraph for people who are never going to build you back anyway. You simply reduce access quietly. You answer less. You post less. You stop volunteering details. You stop giving emotional transparency to people who have not earned psychological proximity. Because every open channel is a drain. Every notification is a hand reaching into your mind. Every casual conversation pulls your attention back into performance. Every check-in tempts you to narrate instead of execute. And men lose years like this. Not through one major failure, through constant leakage. A little attention here, a little validation there, a little oversharing, a little scrolling, a little comparison. He is physically in one room, mentally in 10. He says he wants reinvention, but his nervous system is still chained to noise. So the first mechanic of going dark is simple. Close the gates. Not forever, just long enough for your mind to hear itself again. You need distance from the people who confuse access with intimacy. Distance from the digital arena that turns your pain into content. Distance from the environments where your old identity is constantly being called back to the surface. You cannot become unrecognizable while remaining fully available to the world that memorized your weak patterns. The old version of you is maintained by constant contact, so you interrupt the cycle. You let messages sit. You stop chasing invitations. You go missing from places where you were too visible and too ordinary. Silence feels violent at first. You will reach for your phone. You will feel the itch to explain yourself. You will want someone to notice you are gone. Ignore that impulse. That impulse is the addiction talking. The need to be witnessed is one of the deepest weaknesses a man can carry. Because once someone knows you need their eyes, they own a piece of your behavior. And the ghost protocol begins by taking that ownership back. You are starving the part of you that needed noise to feel real. You are forcing your mind to stand without applause, to work without praise, to move without being seen. That is how internal authority is born. Chapter 4. The Architecture of Isolation. Loneliness breaks the weak. Solitude builds the king. Solitude is not exile when you choose it. It becomes a forge. And a forge is not comfortable. It is hot. It is brutal. It strips away softness and reveals the material underneath. It removes the crowd, and when the crowd disappears, so do the excuses you hid inside it. Now there is no one to blame for your habits, no one to distract you from your inconsistency. This is where the weak man panics. Because when he is left alone, he meets the backlog, the neglected discipline, the unfinished goals, the body he let decay, the impulses he never controlled. Silence brings all of it into the room. And that is why so many men run back to noise, because truth without anesthesia is unbearable when you are undisciplined. But the strategic man stays. He sits in it. He lets the quiet accuse him, not to break himself, to finally become honest. You have to see the cracks clearly. You have to admit where you became soft, where you became needy, where you became predictable, where you handed out access with no cost. This is the architecture of isolation. Not hiding. Assessment. A brutal inventory of the man you have been, so you can design the man you need to become. Where do I leak emotion? Where do I talk instead of act? Where do I seek permission? Where do I tolerate disrespect because I fear being alone? Where do I confuse attention with value? Isolation is where identity stops being theory. It becomes structure. You start noticing your patterns like an investigator at a crime scene. Now the mask is off. Now the work can begin. In the noise, you chase feelings. In the void, you build rules. Wake up at this hour. Train whether you feel like it or not. Read when your mind wants distraction. Save money instead of buying relief. Speak less. Observe more. Refuse cheap access. The void does not reward wishful thinking. It rewards design. It rewards order. It rewards repetition. And after enough silent repetitions, something shifts. You stop feeling abandoned by the quiet. You start feeling protected by it. You realize the world was never giving you energy. It was charging rent on your focus. That is when solitude stops feeling like loss. It starts feeling like territory, a private kingdom, a closed room where weakness is confronted, not explained, where discipline becomes identity, where the man you were starts dying without anyone being invited to the funeral. Chapter 5. Silent Execution. This is where boys get impatient and men separate themselves. Silent execution means your life starts changing before your mouth does. No announcements, no identity speeches, no dramatic declarations about who you are becoming. Just evidence. Your body tightens, your habits sharpen, your schedule cleans itself up. Your finances become less chaotic, your standards rise. Your face changes because your mind is no longer begging the world for permission to exist. On the outside, it looks like nothing is happening, but under the surface, everything is moving. Silent execution is where discipline stops being a mood and becomes machinery. You are building systems that make weakness expensive. You train on schedule. You learn on schedule. You work on schedule. You protect sleep, money, attention, and standards like a man guarding the gates of a fortress. A ruined life is rebuilt through quiet repetitions, so small they look unimpressive to everyone except the man doing them. That is why silence matters. The moment you tell people what you are building, a part of your reward gets paid too early. You feel seen, you feel recognized, you feel like progress has already happened. But real progress looks boring at first. It looks like reading when nobody cares. It looks like saving when nobody claps. It looks like leaving the phone face down while your old addictions beg for attention. This is where your self-respect comes back, not from words, from proof. Proof that you can keep a promise to yourself. Proof that you can endure discomfort without making a speech about it. And once that proof stacks, your presence changes before your appearance does. You stop reaching. You stop flinching. You stop over-laughing. You stop trying to make people comfortable with your existence. The man who has been working in silence carries a different kind of gravity. He does not need quick approval. He has already seen what his discipline can produce behind closed doors. It turns confidence from performance into memory. Now you are not trying to believe in yourself. You are remembering what you have done. The early mornings, the controlled mouth, the hard days you did not announce, the temptations you buried, the chaos you refused to feed. That memory becomes armor. Chapter 6. The unrecognizable return. What happens when the man they laughed at is no longer the man in the room? That is the power of the return. Not a loud return, not a theatrical return, a controlled one. A man who truly rebuilt himself does not return for revenge. He returns because hiding is no longer required. His body is cleaner. His eyes are calmer. His speech is slower. His standards are harder. His attention is no longer cheap. His emotions are no longer public property. He enters the room with less explanation and more weight, and this unsettles people because they remember the version of you that was easy to read, easy to pressure, easy to bait into defending himself. But now there is distance in you. Not arrogance, distance, a controlled space between what they say and how you respond. A pause where there used to be reactivity, a stillness where there used to be leakage. They can feel that they no longer have the same handle on you, the same emotional key, the same ability to provoke an explanation or extract your inner state on demand. The man who used to narrate now observes. The man who used to chase now chooses. The man who used to react now measures. No speech, no timeline, no dramatic reveal, just results, just presence, just a level of internal order that makes the old version of you feel like a rumor. And people will ask where you went. They will ask what happened. They will say you seem different. They will try to open the file they used to have on you and realize the pages no longer match the man standing in front of them. Let them feel the mismatch. Mystery is not a trick. It is what happens when a man stops oversharing his evolution. Chapter 7. Maintaining the mystique. Never explain where you went. That is the rule. Not because secrecy is a game, because explanation reopens access. The moment you start telling people about your dark season, you drag the sacred back into the social. You reduce a private war into a public story. Do not do that. Let them notice the difference without receiving the map. Let them feel the new standard without hearing the diary version of how it was built, because the moment people understand too much about your inner machinery, some of them will start testing it again. They will bring old energy, old jokes, old pressure, old assumptions. Your job is not to debate them. Your job is to deny them access. A simple answer is enough. I took care of some things. I changed my priorities, needed distance. Power speaks in closed doors. Weakness always wants to narrate. You stop treating your transformation like a story other people deserve to hear. They do not. What they deserve is your standard, your boundary, your clarity, your changed behavior, nothing more. Mystique is built by no longer feeling compelled to explain yourself. And a man who owes no explanation moves differently through the world. He wastes less energy. He says less nonsense. He protects more of his force. Closing oath, the law of the ghost. Some seasons of your life must be buried from public view or they will never mature into power. You do not heal in the marketplace. You do not sharpen your blade in the middle of a crowd. You do not build a fortress with the gates wide open. You close the gate. You light the fire. You face what is weak. You kill what is soft. You repeat what is necessary until discipline no longer feels like effort. Then one day you return, not louder, stronger, and the world will call it a transformation. But you will know what it really was, a refusal to keep bleeding in public, a refusal to let spectators sit in the courtroom of your becoming, a refusal to remain available to people who only respected the version of you that was easy to control. That refusal is the birth of sovereignty. Do not announce your ghost phase. Do not perform it. Enter it. Disappear from what weakens you. Cut off what drains you. Build what matters. Return when your presence can do the talking. And if you are ready, leave this oath in the comments. I will rebuild in silence. Because the man who needs attention during the process is still a prisoner. But the man who can vanish, sharpen, and return without explanation, that man is no longer easy to touch.